Today, we'll compare Snowflake's Cortex Analyst with DataChat from the perspective of a business user. Cortex has been pre-configured with an extensive semantic layer and seed queries, both of which are required for the tool to understand and interpret the data. This layer was partially auto-generated by Cortex and then manually adjusted. It includes information such as table relationships, data types, sample values, and some tuning for performance. The final version was verified as valid by Snowflake. It's worth noting that a typical business user wouldn't create or modify this YAML configuration themselves. They'd need support from a data team. In contrast, DataChat requires no semantic layer or seed queries up front, making it more accessible to non-technical users. These elements can be added later if needed. For this video, we've intentionally left them out to reflect a true out-of-the-box experience. We'll begin in Snowflake by selecting the correct schema for our datasets and choosing the stage where our semantic layer lives. Both platforms are using the same BigBox retail dataset, including tables for categories, customers, orders, and products. There's about 6 million rows total, and the data sits in Snowflake, with DataChat connected to the same instance and compute warehouse. DataChat has a more plug-and-play experience for the business user, allowing immediate conversation with the connected tables. As we can see here, the first 100 rows of each dataset are shown in the right panel. Let's start by asking a question that pulls a data point from all 4 tables, requiring joins and calculations to generate the correct answer. I'll ask, show me a bar chart of total television category sales by income level in California for people between the ages of 20 and 40. After thinking about the question, Cortex returns a table with the requested data, but no visualization. It correctly used unit selling price and quantity to calculate total sales. However, it's important to note that this question specifically was a part of the seed query provided as part of the setup process. It also shows the full SQL query, including joins, filters, and groupings. This is helpful for a technical reviewer with a coding background, but not a transparent way for a business user to understand the answer. If we take a look at DataChat, we can see that it returns a full natural language summary, but also displays an interactive chart, which can be shared and edited, enabling a visual understanding of the answer. We can also view the underlying workflow, which displays each step the agent took to find our answer. Because it's in plain English, a business user can easily verify the filters used and confirm that unit selling price and quantity were used to calculate total sales. If needed, we also provide an option to view the executed SQL as well for further verification. From here, I'll ask for another visualization, this time of television sales by state for the 3 weeks leading up to the 2023 Super Bowl. In this case, Cortex seems to know the date of the Super Bowl, but isn't sure what time frame we're asking for, so it offers a few options for the user to choose from. All of the provided options include the 3 weeks before the Super Bowl as well as the date of the Super Bowl itself, which in this case is an extra day of data. However, option 1 here is the closest, so I'll pick that as it requests a visualization of sales covering the 3 weeks leading up to the event. Cortex has provided a result with the answers as a table in descending order for each state, as well as the query necessary to generate this answer. If we take a look at DataChat, we can see that it returned a bar chart of the sales for each of the different states during our specified 3-week period. We can check the underlying workflow to confirm. Here, it looks like it has correctly pulled the 3-week period as we requested and did not include the Super Bowl day itself like Cortex did. From here, let's say I'd like to be a little bit iterative and see this data for 2022 instead. I'll ask, what about in 2022? I'll also clarify to Cortex that I'd only like to include data from the 3 weeks before the Super Bowl, not the Super Bowl date itself. Cortex has returned its result using all of the filters from the previous question. However, this time it applies the correct time frame, ending the day before the Super Bowl, February 12th. DataChat seems to have handled this the same. It adjusts based on the prior question and uses the correct date range, January 23rd through February 12th. Let's ask a question with a bit more possible variability. I'll ask both tools to create a bar chart of sales in each category during the Christmas season versus the rest of the year, and we'll ask for this for all years. This is intentionally a bit vague as we haven't defined what our Christmas season is, so we'll leave that to the two platforms to infer. Cortex has decided to use the month of December as the Christmas season and has returned a table with the requested data, sales for each category sorted by whether or not they were placed within the Christmas season. Reviewing the SQL, this also seems to have been correctly calculated based on the assumed Christmas time. It looks like DataChat has also assumed the entire month of December to be the Christmas season. Again, no context provided here, just the agent's best guess. Looking at the underlying workflow, this result is also correct based on the chosen time frame. Now, I'll define season for our business. We'll tell both tools that the Christmas season runs from Thanksgiving through December 25th. In Cortex, I have to jump back to the YAML file to update the semantic layer's custom instructions, then re-enter the chat. In DataChat, I can add the definition in the products table using the Data Assistant dictionary. Now, I'll re-ask the question, specifying averages this time. Looking at the Cortex summary, the result seems reasonable at first. But if we examine the underlying SQL, we find a key issue. Christmas season is defined incorrectly. Rather than accurately calculating Thanksgiving, which always falls on the fourth Thursday of November, the query uses a formula that adds 21 to the day of the week for November 1st and checks whether that total is divisible by 7. This approximation causes the season to start on inconsistent dates between the 21st and 27th of November, depending on the year, and fails entirely in some edge cases. Looking instead at DataChat, the added context has been integrated in the response. In addition to the summary being correct, we can verify the totals in the given chart are correct as well by looking at the underlying workflow. Here, we can see that Christmas season is correctly defined as each Thanksgiving date through December 25th for each year. DataChat also calculates average sales as the average order value per category, a different and more direct interpretation that aligns with our intent. Both platforms successfully answer analytical questions, but with key differences in setup and usability. Cortex Analyst can deliver technically correct results when given the right setup, but requires a robust semantic layer and seed queries, and oftentimes additional changes, making self-service access inaccessible to the business user. Providing SQL explanations to each question also limits transparency for non-technical users. DataChat, on the other hand, provides a more intuitive experience, connecting directly to databases, incorporating custom logic, and explaining results through visualizations and plain English workflows.